with about 7 other bishops, and they are collaborating, and they're known as the ACNA West. And so the Fort Worth Diocese has gathered with about, I think it's 6 other dioceses, and they're known as ACNA West, and they have one intake officer. So that intake officer's job is to receive reports of misconduct and to handle them well. It just so happens that you get to have the intake officer right here in your diocese in me. So I am the intake officer for the ACNA West. And I just wanted to talk briefly about what it means to report misconduct and what misconduct is, and as leaders of the church, what your responsibilities are. So what is misconduct? I think a lot of people think that misconduct is sort of just settled in the one thing of sexual misconduct. And the truth is that there can be all kinds of different kinds of misconduct. There could be procedural misconduct, there can be financial misconduct, there can be interpersonal misconduct. And so at the end of the day, what we really want to remember is if you see something, say something. The whole idea is that we don't want to be a church that does not address issues. We want to be a church that puts things in the light, that talks about things, and that investigates when needed. And so if you see something that makes you uncomfortable, some kind of interaction, some kind of just you're questioning financial issues, you're questioning conduct of any kind, call. Just call and report it. And then we'll let you know if it's something that needs to go further or not. But what we don't want is for you to feel like you don't know what to do or where to say. And what we don't want is those parking lot conversations where people are kind of grumbling about something or kind of talking about something and it never gets brought into the light. So who should you report? Who should report? Everyone should report. And who do you report it to? First to your rector or your vicar, and next to the intake officer. If for whatever reason you don't want to talk to your vicar about it or your rector about it, go directly to the intake officer. And that's me. Okay? So how do you report? We have set up a way. There are 3 different ways. We've made it super easy for you. I have a bat phone. You can call the bat phone anytime. There's the number. And when the bat phone rings, I answer it at whatever time it is if I can. There's also, and so I know when that line rings that it's a concern. You can email concerns@acnawest.org. That goes directly to me as well. Or you can go to ACNA West and there's a link to a Google form. You can just report it there. You can just type it up. Okay. All right, so what should you expect if you report a concern? And really that's what we're calling them. We're not saying that you're making a complaint or that you're reporting misconduct. You're reporting a concern. And if you have a concern, report it. So what to expect? You will get a phone call from me. You will get a phone call, and my job is to gather the information. It is not necessarily my job to make a decision. It's not my job to take a side. It's my job to gather the facts. It's my job to write a report based on those facts and provide that to the bishop with perhaps a recommendation. But at the end of the day, the decision will be the bishop's as to what is the next steps. If a formal complaint needs to be made, I will assist the person reporting in making that formal complaint. And then the next steps are always going to be determined depending upon the canonical offense, or if it's a lesser form of conduct, the next steps will always be determined by the bishop and the standing committee. So my job is to just gather facts, make sure that that you have a safe place to report. If for some reason, when you report, there's counseling needed or an advocate needed, I can help facilitate that as well. But my job is really just to gather the facts and to make a report so that the bishop has the information he needs. Okay? Are there any questions? Yes?
Who, like the standing committee, what is that and what does that entail?
Sure. So the standing committee is a body. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to answer that the best. Can someone else answer that?
Clergy and lay elected by the bishop to be a council of advice to the bishop.
There you go. Thank you. That was a wonderful soundbite. But I did not have in my back pocket. Thank you. Okay, so they advise the bishop. At the end of the day, it's the bishop's decision. Yeah, but it's almost like a check and balance for the bishop as well. Yeah, kind of like well, if he were the president, would it be like his cabinet? The vestry of the diocese. There you go. Thank you. Okay, any other questions? Is there a question? Father Tebow.
Yes, thank you. Intake officer, gathering information and facts. Is this an investigation? And are you getting facts from only one party, or is this a more robust investigation?
Okay, so what you need to remember is when someone reports a concern, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has risen to the level of a canonical offense that requires an investigation. So what we need to remember is at my level, what we're going to call that is an inquiry. So at the intake officer level, I'm doing an inquiry. It may mean that I need to speak to other witnesses. It may mean that I need to speak to the person who the concern is about in order to provide the correct, a full level of facts to the bishop. It's all dependent upon circumstances. Once it goes to the bishop, my recommendation may be, this needs to be investigated. Bishop, this is looking like there's a real issue and it needs to be investigated. At that point, there's a whole other investigative process where other investigators would be brought in, other processes would be used. I can certainly piggyback that, but we are, the joy of the ACNA West is that we get to pool resources. So there's investigators from other dioceses that we can use, depending upon the kind of investigation. There's other lawyers we can help come in. There's counselors we can have be involved. But at the intake officer level, to answer your question, it is an inquiry. It might involve talking with more than one person, but it has not gone to the investigation level until the bishop says so. Does that make sense?
I hear you, yes.
Yeah. And to be honest, that's what's really important, is that we need to we can't assume that we're jumping to investigation on everything. We just need to allow people to report, and then we need to gather facts, and then we need to respond appropriately to those facts. Anything else? Any other questions?
Is there like an appeal process? So say it's an inquiry, you think, and the bishop thinks that it doesn't warrant any investigation, but the person who brought the concern does. Is there an appeal process?
It depends. I mean, not really, no. I mean, because there would be a standing committee, and the truth is, it has to rise to a canonical offense. And so if the bishop has decided it's not a canonical offense, but that doesn't mean that he is not doing something. So he may choose to have a pastoral conversation. He can do a godly admonition. There are things that he can do outside of an investigation that maybe isn't needed, or he can just talk with the person themselves and they say, yeah, I did all that, and then there's pastoral counseling that goes on that no investigation is needed. So, no.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Is the person then kept apprised, whoever brings the concern to you? So I bring a concern to you, you say, I'm taking, do all the things, then you're coming back to me and saying, Karen, this is what happened, yada, 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 kind of things. Okay.
So I don't know. tell you when you give me your concern, I'm gonna tell you what I can do and what I can't do, based on what your concern is. I'm gonna tell you, this is your complaint to make. If you sign the complaint, then we're gonna take it all the way through. If you're saying it on behalf of somebody else, I'm gonna say thank you, but your part is done, you know? So, I'm gonna tell you what to expect. Anything else? Okay, thank you. And now we get to finish our day, but you want to make it all the way through to the end because we still spin the wheel as our last thing before we go, and you must be present to win. So, Bishop Breedlove, you're going to bring us home.